Hello everyone and welcome to Diaries of a Demented DM, and welcome to the start of a brand new campaign. This time we are delving into the world of Dungeons and Dragons, the 5th edition brought to you by Wizards of the Coast. We decided on this system because my players are all familiar with it, and also they were really eager to give this module a try. So the module that we're going to be starting in these videos is the 2016 released module, Curse of Strahd. This is a very well-received adventure module. It was based off a 1983 module for Dungeons and Dragons called Ravenloft, featuring the cursed kingdom of Barovia and its vampire dreadlord, Strahd von Zarokovich. I always get that wrong. Hopefully with time, as I go through this campaign, I'll actually end up getting it right by the end. So a little bit about this campaign. From reading, I'll give a little bit of detail before I introduce the characters. But I won't reveal too much because I would recommend that people play GMs pick up this module because it really is so good story-wise and can really lead to a lot of intense role-playing for the GM if you're into that kind of thing, which, as we know, most of us are. So, without spoiling too much, because I know both my players will be watching this, and also for GMs willing to run it, the whole adventure takes place in a locked kingdom. You can't, as far as I'm aware, you can't leave. So with this one, everything revolves around certain events happening at different times. The adventure is meant to take you from level 1 all the way through to level 11, but you can start at various levels, but it recommends that you start at various locations. But not only that, some of the aspects of this game are decided completely by fate. So as Facilier from The Princess and the Frog will say, the cards will tell. These are what is known as a Tarot deck. They are a set of special tarot cards designed specifically for the campaign by Wizards. At the start of the game, you have to hide certain items or determine the location of several major characters, including Strahd himself, by doing a special tarot reading of these cards, but which will determine the fate of, which will determine the locations, and also it will kind of determine the ease of which your players will find them. Because it's so randomly, they could find it right at the start of the game in the basement of a tavern, or it could be at the end of a terrifically long dungeon. It's all down to what you draw on the cards. But then again, what is drawn at the start of the game is not particularly fixed, because there are opportunities for additional readings which overwrite the original. So DMs need to watch out for that and also keep careful track. You can actually you can buy this deck from most good game shops and from Amazon, but it's not essential to buy it, although it's recommended, because there is guides within the adventure module to get a standard deck of cards and play with it. Or there are templates for the cards in the appendix. I can give you a quick flash of that now, I think, without spoiling too much, as you've seen the cards. As you can see, you can photocopy them and create your own quick deck if you really want to try and be it. But I do recommend getting the actual deck, because these are beautiful cards, and it also comes with a guide for a unique little card game with it as well. Something called let's see, Prophet's Gambit. That's it, Prophet's Gambit. I haven't actually tried it myself, but I look forward to actually trying it when this naturally accursed lockdown eventually ends. Say, if anyone's watching this after lockdown has ended, wasn't it a terrible one? So anyway, on to the game. We'll be playing. The players of my campaign are familiar faces. If you've watched my Dragon Age series, you will recognise all 4 of my adventurers. There is my amazing fiancé Chris, of the channel Max Mechas. Link to the channel is in the description below. There is also our good friend Cal, who is also known as the Baron. Again, his link is in the description below. Please visit both of them, they are absolutely incredible. And with Cal, obviously, you get the lovely Baroness, his wife Jenni, and our good friend Dudley, who is always joining in for a good laugh and occasional hijinks. So I'll give you a quick intro about our characters. Chris is playing a half-elf warlock of the Celestial Domain, because in this campaign I decided to stretch the boundaries a little bit when it came to character creation, to include as many of the source books as I have readily available. And that includes the recently released book Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, which is a spellcaster's dream. I would recommend that you get it. But he drew his from another book, Xanathar's Guide to Everything. It contained details of a celestial deity. So basically, he is a kind of DPS/healer in this scenario, because he has all of the arcane spells that benefit from the warlock, but at the same time casting specific patron spells, which are more towards healing and divine magic. So it adds a nice little balance to the character. Next we have Cal, who always likes to go out and think outside the box, and he is playing an Air Genasi, or a race descended from the Jinns, or the Genies. He is also a warlock, and is very proud of swinging around his lamp, because the Genasi get the delightful ability of hiding inside their lamp and storing things, so he's basically got his own little bag of holding right from the get-go. Oh, it's always fun when players drop something on you right at the start, isn't it, DMs? Next up is Jenni, and Jenni is playing a character who just makes me smile, because it is such a it's so anathema to her husband. It's wacky. She is playing Sister Chastity, who is a human paladin. Well, I will say that she is a variant human, using the Vistani, who are a race of travellers, specific to the Curse of Strahd campaign. So she has background with the Vistani. She is a very devout paladin who seems to consider anything fun a sin, and with the Air Genasi that Cal is playing, whose name is Salija, he is playing a very hedonistic character who loves to crack wise and just go with the flow. It's some of the conversations we've had are absolutely incredible, because we've had our first couple of sessions. And finally there is Dudley, and he is playing a Dwarven fighter who later became, I believe he's aiming to become an Eldritch Knight. He is he is a dwarf, and he seems to be the balance of the party, where between him and Ellis, who is the name of Chris's character again, sorry, out of order. So we have Ellis, Salija, Sister Chastity, and Dunvil. So these are our 4 characters for the campaign. I decided right at the start that these characters should all have met slightly before what's going to happen, because Curse of Strahd actually has a good selection of plot hooks for how you want to get your characters in. But I wanted to do something special. In Curse of Strahd there is a starter adventure, like a taster, and it recommends that you use one of the adventure hooks, so I use this one. They are whisked away to Barovia and appear at the gates. So naturally they left the tavern, they walked out, camped in the woods on their way to the next town. A really weird mist swirls around them through the night, and when they awaken, they find themselves in a place that was not the same as when they slept. So they arrive on this track leading down through a forest. They decide to explore the forest, and in very quick succession they find a body. Delightful. That has been clawed to shreds. Curse of Strahd can get very graphic, and it encourages the DM to play on the fear, because it is in essence a horror campaign. So you have to try and make your players feel the suspense all the way through. So I had them, so they were busy examining this body that they found just off the path in the woods, and in this time they start hearing howls, and they get getting closer and closer, and eventually they see sense and decide to run back to the road, and the howls suddenly vanish. So all spooky got them quite freaked out, especially as you could almost sense the danger drawing near by the time that they actually decide to leave. After that, they walked down the road and eventually came to these great sets of gates, the gates of Barovia, which swung open to admit them but slammed closed behind them, kind of haunted mansion style, if you know what I mean. And this led them out into the main part of Barovia. I would show you a map, but again, I don't want to spoil too many things. In Barovia, in the mainland of Barovia now, they come across a couple of strangers wandering around, because they decide to head towards the sound of running river. So they lead the path and trek through the fog across the plain. This, what they assume is like a small plain, and they find a group of humans who are quite antisocial, to say the least, very intimidating. But they advise to the party to leave and head to the village to the northwest. And then they disappear into the forest themselves without a care in the world, and they are obscured by the mist. Salija attempts to actually follow at one point, and being an air genasi, he has the ability to hold his breath indefinitely. Element of air and all that. Although, when he tries to enter the mists that surround Barovia here, he finds himself choking, a sensation he's never actually felt before, which, again, played really into the entrapment part of the campaign. So, following his failed attempt to break through the mist, they decide to head on, and they eventually reached this small village, which aptly is also named Barovia. As they enter, they encounter these two small children. Both of them look very... they're dressed quite regally, although they are both really... One of them is crying, holding a teddy bear, while the other one is slightly older and seems more stern. They introduce themselves as Rose and Fawn. They tell the party that they need help because their baby brother is trapped in the house, and they don't want to go inside because they're afraid of a monster in the basement. So they lead the party through the town, through just the outskirts of the town. It wasn't far, and they got to this very rundown looking townhouse, 3 stories high, and they convince the party to go inside, just to help them, because they're not sure where their mother and father are, but they believe that their parents are keeping this whatever monster is trapped in the basement. So being the party that they are, they decide to walk up. They walk up and into the house. It's actually very well crafted on the inside. It's very dark though, not in the oil lamps and that are lit, and for some strange reason the party decide not to light them. They just snuck from room to room in the dark and just tried to explore in the dark. I mean, as a DM it was hilarious to watch. Sadly I wasn't able to record it like I did the Dragon Age session, because it's just this one session that we had a slight issue with Zoom. But from the next video on, you will see the hijinks of our adventures in full Zoom view. Please like and comment as accordance. It's much appreciated to get as much feedback as possible. So, continuing, they go around the bottom floor, find a few interesting rooms, a dining room, a very nice hallway with a ascending spiral staircase, a hunter's trophy room, a kitchen, and I already said dining room. So yeah, they went through all of these. Everything seemed fine. It looked all regally set up. They actually managed to pinch a couple of things and put them into Sliger's lamp. Making their way upstairs to the second room, they find a drawing room and a library. So they really got into the hang of exploring these, because especially when Elijah saw that there was a freestanding harp, and he really wanted to stuff that into his lamp, as well as 4 sets of ornate plate armor that was stacked around the doors. So they go and pour all of this into the lamp. There was actually a point where they were actually throwing it all into the hallway, because at one Elijah was going to just absorb it all into his lamp at one go, and at this point I'm just thinking, oh dear lord. It was going to be such a heavy trip to the merchants later, I could tell. So, after sorting the music room, Elijah and Ellis were doing that, whereas Dunvil and Sister Chastity explored the library. Dunvil, by accident, discovers a slight secret in the room. I won't spoil, but it leads to the discovery of a will and some other important documents that leads the party to believe that not all is as it seems. Leaving that, they decide to head up to the third floor. On the third floor, they are attacked by because as they ascended from second to third, everything started to get musty, and then they were attacked by a suit of armor. And God, it was even in close quarters, the combat's quite difficult, because you're on a balcony overlooking a 3-floor drop. That would have been interesting to see, but thankfully no one fell over it. But the warlocks were firing Eldritch Blast over and over and over again, and missing and basically punching holes in the wall. And in the end, it was Sister Chastity with her slashing her sword and banging with her shield that she was knocking this thing back, and Dunvil swinging around with his daggers that eventually took it down. Led to a lot of little swaps with the warlock's ability at that point. But on the third floor, they found the bedrooms. These ones were a little bit more musty. They found the master bedroom, which they believe belonged to the kids' parents. They found a balcony, a very nice balcony, but then again, as soon as they stepped out, the mist enshrouded them, because as soon as they stepped into the house, the mist trapped them inside. So it was a little bit railroading, but it was as the campaign was written. So after discovering that they couldn't get down from the balcony, they actually spotted that there was an attic. So they were determined to try and find their way out there. So they go back into the master bedroom. I think Chastity found a couple of pieces of jewellery while searching the room. They find a bathroom in working order, but old and neglected. The kind of one that you find in like a squatter's den, if you know what I mean. Ooh. They then found a store cupboard, which had a delightfully comedic effect of a magically enchanted broom. And this broom decided to consistently smack Elijah around the head. And again, he struggled to hit it. And then the last room was... once they polished off the broom, the last room was the room containing a musty bed and a covered Moses cot. And that's when everything really started to get worried, because at the same time the dust in the room suddenly coagulated and a spectre attacked the party. And as everyone knows, a spectre is an undead creature and therefore has resistance to non-magical weapons. So when your character's at first level, things really get quite tough. So almost all damage done to the spectre is halved unless it's done by magical means. So this time, thankfully, Elijah and Ellis were hitting at full power, and Dunvil and Chastity were using their own special skill special attacks to try and do as much damage as possible, and eventually the creature explodes into a bunch of dust, and they check inside the cot but find it empty, despite the ominous little cries coming from it. I know. So once they'd done that, they decided to search the room, and we ended that first session on on them opening the mirror and finding a secret staircase leading up. Because it was getting quite late at this point, we decided to call the session, but not before Sister Chastity. It was either Dunvil or Sister Chastity decided to put a bear trap down in front of the staircase. So leading up, because they didn't want to be assaulted from down, so they set up little watches. People decided whether or not to sleep in the bed, and if I recall, Dunvil, being a dwarf, decided to sleep in the baby's cot. Goodness knows why. So that is the current opening to... That is what we managed to attain thus far before I was able to start recording. So it's where I'm going to leave this video. So hopefully what you've heard is going to be good enough to entice you to watch the rest of the Curse of Strahd. It's been quite a joy so far running it, and I really hope you enjoy it. So please like, subscribe, and keep following on our videos, and very soon I will have edited the next session, and you will see it live, and you will see it right on this channel, Diaries of a Demented DM. So please keep watching, keep following, and please do give feedback, because it's always good for a DM to receive feedback. And I'm sure my players would like it too, because we have, in the Traveller's Replaceback game that we've been doing with Cal, we've actually been getting a few interesting little fan fictions coming out. I won't let you spoil it. If you really would like to see that, go and see the Baron's channel, and he is more than happy to share his experiences. So anyway, back to where we were. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next episode. Ta-ta!